Now, we all know how bad that Golden State Valkyrie game was, man. I think now, today, moving forward, we really got to take time to analyze the game, analyze Stephanie White coaching decisions, which was catastrophic towards the end of the game. Everybody knew Aaliyah Boston was getting the ball. Then you had other people open in the corner. Then the referees played a factor. Stephanie White didn't go out like Becky Hammon. And that's what this video is about. See, Becky Hammon went into her press conference standing on business. That was Becky Hammon did. Becky Hammon let it be known. I don't give a damn, find me. That's what she said. And that was the type of energy we should have seen from Stephanie White in the press conference.
Becky Hammon did not hold back, and her remarks regarding Stephanie White's treatment of Caitlin Clark are currently shocking the whole WNBA. This was neither a nuanced jab nor a well-crafted media reaction. The sports world is going crazy over this straightforward, unvarnished critique of how Indiana's coaching staff has handled the most significant player in women's basketball. Hammon has enough experience with this game to understand exactly what she is saying and what it means. She has been a top-tier coach. She's been in those locker rooms, so she has a better understanding of what happens when a franchise mistreats a generational talent than virtually anyone alive. You may learn all you need to know about how awful things have really gone inside that company from the fact that she decided to speak up at this particular moment. It wasn't an accident. It was a message. Everyone should ask, what does Becky Hammon know that the rest of us are only beginning to figure out? When a coach of her caliber and repute comes up and publicly criticizes the treatment of a player like Caitlin Clark. Because those kinds of grenades are not thrown carelessly by coaches at that level. The public has only been able to catch glimpses of what has been going on behind the scenes in the Fever program, but Hamond just made it all public. The way this coaching staff has consistently made choices that seem to work directly against what makes Clark so difficult to guard, as well as the way her game has been manipulated. Hamond purposefully placed everything in the middle of a discussion that this league can no longer afford to ignore. Here's exactly what Hamond said, why it matters so much for Caitlin Clark's future with this team, and why those who truly know what winning basketball looks like are now scrutinizing Stephanie White's entire coaching philosophy. Because this is more complex than a single remark or a single news conference. This concerns whether the Indiana Fever are genuinely dedicated to creating something meaningful around their franchise player, or if they are content to watch a once-in-a-generation talent play in a system that was never intended to support her success. We're just getting started, so please share your opinions in the comments section below. We'll be dissecting every aspect of this discussion right now. Everyone who witnessed the news conference realized there was a serious problem within the Indiana Fever organization as soon as it concluded. Standing at that stage, Stephanie White gave the kind of response that infuriates a disgruntled fan base even more than the actual defeat. Because 4 minutes of cautiously avoiding accountability is not a news conference when your team was just exposed on the largest platform and your coaching choices were the subject of every post-game discussion taking place across the nation. It's a cover-up. In the meantime, Becky Hammon was doing the exact opposite while attending her own news conference. She was straightforward. She was fierce. She was unrepentant and made it very evident that, regardless of the repercussions, she was prepared to fight for her players and her program. This difference was not overlooked. It was seen on the internet. The fans witnessed it. The difficult topic of why those two press appearances were so dissimilar from one another is now being asked by everyone.
We all know how bad that Golden State Valkyrie game was, man. I think now, today, moving forward, we really got to take time to analyze the game, analyze Stephanie White coaching decisions, which was catastrophic towards the end of the game. Everybody knew Aaliyah Boston was getting the ball. Then you had other people open in the corner. Then the referees played a factor. Stephanie White didn't go out like Becky Hammon. And that's what this video is about. See, Becky Hammon went into her press conference standing on business. That was Becky Hammon did. Becky Hammon let it be known. I don't give a damn, find me. That's what she said. And that was the type of energy we should have seen from Stephanie White in the press conference. And I'm here to tell you, the press conference was 4 minutes long. They didn't even want to talk about the damn game for real. Just embarrassing, bro. And I know I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying this all season long. Stephanie White is not Caitlin Clark Phil Jackson. She's Doc Rivers. And for whatever reason, she don't want to take responsibility for her actions. Hell, we heard even Natalie threw some shots at the Fever last night. But
this is what all viewers must be sitting with at the moment. If a coach on the other team's sidelines is prepared to put in more effort and take greater responsibility than Caitlin Clark's genuine coach, what does that tell you about the Fever program's leadership culture? Why does Stephanie White still act in a manner that seems utterly detached from the severity of this situation? And perhaps most significantly, why does it seem like every other coach in this league recognizes that responsibility and openness following a devastating defeat are not a sign of weakness but rather the cornerstone of trust that successful programs are founded upon? Fever followers will find it extremely difficult to accept the answer. Managing rotations and creating plays are only two aspects of coaching. It is about establishing a benchmark for how this program behaves in the event that something goes wrong. A coach's refusal to take responsibility for the choices that directly led to a devastating defeat has an impact on more than just public opinion. It seeps into the changing area. The player's confidence is impacted. Additionally, it conveys to all viewers that this organization prioritizes self-preservation over the kind of extreme honesty that truly resolves issues. In a moment of defeat, Becky Hammon demonstrated to the entire league what brave leadership looks like. And this fanbase will continue to draw the same analogy each time something goes wrong until Stephanie White finds that same energy. Stephanie White exhibits a trend that is now hard to ignore. And it goes well beyond a single poor performance or a single dubious choice made in the closing seconds of a close game. It's a systemic issue. It's a cultural issue. And for longer than most Fever fans feel comfortable acknowledging, the issue has been in front of everyone who is willing to examine it honestly. Creating plays and overseeing rotations are not the most crucial aspects of a head coach's job. It is establishing the program's standards for accountability. Additionally, when a coaching staff consistently makes choices that have a direct impact on how games turn out, they never take responsibility for their mistakes. It fosters a culture in which errors are accepted rather than fixed. It's not simply annoying to observe this trend of avoiding accountability from the outside. For a team that is meant to be developing something significant around the most marketable and gifted player this league has seen in a generation, it is truly risky.
Errors. I never, ever heard Stephanie White take any errors or take responsibility for her coaching errors, because we all know she has errors in her artillery. We all know there is some, let's just say, not bulletproof things in that vest when it comes to that. When it comes to Stephanie White, bro. Stephanie White, to me, is going to be the worst decision for the season. Her remaining being the coach, bro, is going to cost the Fever a championship. I'm saying it right now. I'm calling it right now. I lost all faith in Stephanie White. The little faith I had left, because I lost faith last year, but the little faith that I had left is gone, man.
It's an extremely uncomfortable question that must be on the back of every Fever fan's mind right now. How many games? How many chances were lost? And how many devastating defeats must occur before this team takes seriously the question of whether the guy on the sidelines can actually maximize the potential of this roster? Beyond the wins and losses column, why does it seem that this team's coaching style is directly at odds with the kind of quick, inventive, and explosive basketball that would truly allow Caitlin Clark to reach her full potential? When does organizational loyalty to a coaching staff start to actively harm this franchise's long-term trajectory? The harsh and truthful response is that news conference appearances are not the only aspects of coaching accountability. It has a direct impact on how players react in crucial situations, the level of trust in the locker room, and, in the end, how far this club can really go when the games start to mean most. A team is silently accepting a ceiling it hasn't even publicly acknowledged yet if it won't push its coaching staff to evolve and reflect honestly. Furthermore, accepting any kind of artificial ceiling is not merely a strategic error for a team that has Caitlin Clark on its roster. The opportunity to create something unique around a star like her is limited. Therefore, this fanbase has every right to be utterly incensed about the organizational failure. The entire WNBA community is still talking about what Becky Hammon did in that post-game situation, something that very few professional basketball coaches are truly willing to do. She completely refused to back down and confronted the officials in a straight, courageous, and unreserved manner. The frustration she was expressing was more than just feeling for the sake of emotion, which is why it struck so strongly. Anybody who watched that game with an honest eye could understand that it was based on anything genuine. When you see that game's free throw differential on the stat sheet, it's the kind of figure that makes you look twice. When the opposing side is converting free throw opportunities at a rate that totally alters the game's natural flow, and your most dominant interior players are hardly making it to the line while being physical forces in the paint. That's more than simply terrible luck. It is important to publicly and loudly call out that pattern. And without even blinking, Hamond called it out precisely that way.
Hammond went out like a G, and she say, "Find me." That's what Becky Hammon said. Listen to Becky Hammon, y'all.
The other thing, Asia Wilson shoots 1 free throw, Kennedy Carter 0, Jackie Young 0. I'm fucking tired of that bullshit. I'm not saying they didn't earn their 22 down there, but when a Walk Ware shoots more free throws than Asia Wilson and Jackie Young and Kennedy Carter all combined, that's a problem. And we're not getting the same whistle. Give me my fine.
Now, this is crazy coming from Becky Hammon a year later, because we know the Aces had the best whistle in the W. We all could agree with that. The Aces has the best whistle. This year, don't look like they got that whistle no more. Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm just saying Becky Hammon went out on her shield. You know, like with combat sports, you're supposed to go out on your shield. That's what Becky Hammon did today. Yesterday. She went out on her shield, bro. And she definitely let it be known. Find me, I don't give a...
After witnessing that degree of coaching bravery on full display, every observer must be wondering why this kind of intense public support for your players seems so uncommon in this league. Why does the officiating debate not receive the widespread attention it truly merits until a coach is fully tested? And this is possibly the most pointed question of them. What does it tell you about how erratic and unpredictable the refereeing situation in this entire league is at the moment if a coach who has always benefited from favorable officiating is suddenly publicly stating that her team is no longer receiving the same treatment? The solution goes right to the core of professional basketball's competitive fairness. The differential in free throws is not a small statistical detail. When bodies meet in the paint, it directly reflects who is being defended and how the game is being called. No amount of skill or strategy can completely change the outcome of games when elite players who regularly put pressure on the defense and draw contact are routinely swallowing the whistle, while lesser matchups result in foul calls with far less physicality. Hammond was aware of this, and she insisted on making a public statement. The kind of leadership energy that distinguishes decent coaches from genuinely great ones is the courage to fight for her players when silence would have been an easier option. Becky Hammon did more than simply question officiating and stand up for her players. She made everyone in the audience pose the most difficult question possible by holding up a mirror to the entire league. What does true coaching leadership entail? And is Caitlin Clark now receiving it from the Indiana Fever organization? It is no longer possible to ignore or explain away the differences between these two coaching philosophies. It will always be at the center of this discussion, and as the season progresses, it will only become more prominent. The window of opportunity for the Fever to make the correct decision is closing more quickly than anyone in the front office appears prepared to acknowledge. Click the subscribe button now.